get a lot of influence on smaller communities.
Usanikwan could force the pilgrims to leave at any time, but it's unlikely he sees them as a threat.
About 9 degrees. As we head through the evening and overnight, cloud and rain gathering already in the northwest will start to push southwards. Again, there'll be some winteriness behind this, even to lower levels across parts of Scotland, and the wind will start to become a feature of the weather across parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland and the Irish Sea. With clear skies in the far southeast, it does mean for you that there will be a touch of frost. But we'll start here with some sunshine. That will be short-lived because the weather front bearing the rain is going to be pushing steadily southwards. Now, if we follow this weather front round, you can see how it wraps around that low pressure, bringing some more snow across northern and western Scotland, and some of that will be at low levels. Further south, some of the showers could be wintry in the tops of the hills, but tomorrow the wind again will be a feature. The Met Office has a yellow weather warning out for the wind strength across Scotland, Northern Ireland and Northern England. Widely gusts 50 to 60 miles an hour. Around the coast, some of us could have gusts 70 to 80 miles an hour. So an unsettled period of weather coming our way. Charlie and Naga.
Charlie, Carol, thank you so much. I can't believe I called you.
We're all at it.
I know, I'm so sorry, Carol. Thanks so much. We'll speak later.
Thanks, Carol. Time now is 16 minutes past 7. Let's return now to our main story this morning, the tragedy in the Channel, which has prompted the leaders of Britain and France to agree on the need to urgently step up their joint efforts to prevent people from crossing.
The Prime Minister Boris Johnson spoke to President Macron by phone last night. What sort of measures are going to make a difference? Well, let's get a view from the Dover MP, Natalie Elphicke, and Zoe Gardner from the Joint Council for the Welfare of Immigrants. Good morning to you both. As many people have said, it's a day that perhaps was inevitable because of what's been happening and the number of crossings that we are seeing over the Channel. Natalie Elphicke, what do you think needs to be done now? We know that the UK is talking. We know that there are crisis talks in France. The hope is now that some coordination can be improved.
Well, yesterday's tragedy cannot be repeated, and we need to have urgent and swift action to make sure that these boats are not entering the water. Here in Dover, it's windy, it's raining, and it's extremely cold. People should not be in the water in this weather. It's an incredibly dangerous crossing, and otherwise we will see more loss of life. So I'd like to see the patrols stepped up on the beaches, making sure that the boats don't get in the water in the first place. That's the best way to keep people safe, by keeping them on the shores of France where they are already safe.
When you say you want to see patrols stepped up, how many patrols can we offer? I know at the moment that is being resisted by France, but how many patrols can be on offer? Because we were talking to a representative from the Calais Ports Authority who said, look, when I hear that the French aren't doing enough, you've got 100 kilometres of sand, bushes, forests to control. There are a lot of controls already in place, but it's an enormous piece of land to patrol.
Yesterday we saw footage of French police standing by while people got the boat ready, picked up the engine and took to the water on the French side. They did absolutely nothing. That's unacceptable, and that's got to change. The British are standing by, willing to put people to help. The EU, I'm sure, will come to the French's aid as well. This is a humanitarian crisis on the shores of France, and these people smugglers must not be allowed to continue to ply their trade and put people's lives at risk in these wintry seas. It is vital that action's taken, and the only way to do that is to stop people on the beaches of France from getting into the boats and turn them round swiftly in French waters if they do get in the water.
Yeah, just to be clear, do you have a figure on what we can offer in terms of patrols?
Well, I expect that that will be part of the discussions that you've referred to between France and the UK today. It's been offered before,
in the past,
and I'm sure it will be offered again.
But do you know?
It has, and the French did not take that up, but But we work very well with the French, with juxtaposed controls, with French officers working here in Dover, with British officers, border officials working in Calais. We have a long and good border security cooperation agreement for legal routes, and we must extend that to these illegal routes, working together to stop people getting into those boats and saving lives by making sure those boats don't get in the water in the first place.
Zoe Gardner, good morning to you. Today the questions are about how to stop these crossings and if people need to seek asylum in the UK to make this safe. What can be done?
Good morning, Naga, and thank you for having me. In the wake of such a horrific tragedy, we've been absolutely devastated at JCWI to hear about such a huge loss of life, including men, women and children. This tragedy was completely predictable, indeed it was predicted, and it was completely preventable. I don't know how many times, Naga, you have spoken to politicians who have told you that a few more patrols on the French beach are actually this time going to solve the problem, but I've heard it 100,000 times at least, and this approach has failed us. This has to be a time for our government to mark a turning point. This tragedy must not be allowed to continue, and that means changing our approach, not more of the same failed policies. We need to offer people alternatives to the smuggling boats.
To be fair, Zoe Gardner, sorry to interrupt, to be fair, Zoe Gardner, the offer of patrols has been refused by the French, so that approach hasn't been.
But the French are patrolling their own border.
Yeah, and insufficiently so. As
absolutely insufficiently, and I agree that it's absolutely horrendous. Those images of the French police standing by while children got onto one of those unsafe vessels are shocking to me, and this is a European failure, and the French have a huge amount to answer for, also for the conditions that people live in northern France. They're destitute, and when they are picked up and prevented from making the crossings, they're left destitute. They're not offered any support, so they absolutely haven't found safety at that point. And in many cases, this is about people joining their family members, coming to a country where they have connections, where they believe they can build their future. And so it only makes sense for us to offer them ways to make that journey without getting into the smugglers' boats. That's how you cut off the source of this problem. And currently, this government has a bill going through Parliament that its own evidence says will make this worse, will force people to take more dangerous journeys. There will always be a stretch of coastline that isn't being patrolled. There will always be an official you can bribe. And as long as our borders are closed to refugees, there will be desperate people who will take these risks.
Natalie Elphick, to pick up on that point, if people are going to seek asylum and seek refuge, surely rather than making it more difficult, the process should be made easier. This isn't about people who want to come and take our benefits or use our resources. These are about people who are escaping desperate times, who are at desperate moments in time. What can be done to make that easier and more humane?
I think it's really important that we do recognise that people are already safe in France and many other European and other countries before they get to France. So it's simply not correct to say that people are not in safety. There is help and assistance available, and they should be seeking it rather than putting to sea in a dinghy in the hands of the people smugglers. This is about people smuggling.
No, but that's a slightly different point. Apologies for interrupting. That's a different point. The point is, if they want to come to the UK, they have the right to come to the UK as an asylum seeker. The point is, the journey here is treacherous. How can that be made better and safer?
The journey across the small boats is unlawful. It is an illegal route of entry, and there are safe and legal routes, and it's absolutely vital that the message gets out there that people must take safe and legal routes and not put them in the hands of people smugglers. We take a large number of people directly from resettlement near conflict zones. That's the right thing to do. It makes sure that we get the most vulnerable and needy and put those in places of safety and bring them directly to this country. That's the way our asylum should work, to make sure that we're bringing in people in the greatest need, the most vulnerable, directly from those areas of conflict, and that's what we do. This is about illegal activity, it is about people smuggling, it is about loss of life, and I agree it was predictable and it needs to be brought to an end. There are in fact only a few specific departure points at which we see the large number of these crossings occurring. Those are the points that need to be targeted, they need to be patrolled, and those boats need to be stopped. In that way the people smugglers won't succeed. They will know that they can't get people on the boats and into Britain, and it will bring an end to the small boats crisis. It is the best way
Okay,
to
and I want to
keep
get a word
people
from
safe
Zoe
by
Gardner
making
as well.
sure they don't get in the boots.
Zoe Gardner, your response to that?
I'm afraid Natalie will know perfectly well because her colleague Victoria Atkinson, who is in charge of the resettlement program from Afghanistan, stood up in Parliament just this week and said 4 times that there is no timescale in place even to begin to bring people in safety from Afghanistan to the UK. It's not true that there are safe routes. We have left the Dublin regulation, which allowed for people to reunite with their family members within the EU. So if somebody was in France or in Greece or in Italy, they could apply to come to the UK if they had family members here. We've left that system. So those people are also forced to make the irregular crossing in order to reach the UK. And listening to Natalie, I'm afraid I can see why, and it is disgraceful how the French have behaved about this, but I can see why they refuse to cooperate properly with us, because we are expecting them to take in all the refugees, and we're saying that none of this is our problem at all, and that simply isn't right. We are a compassionate country. People want to do their bit and step up and help refugees, and we need to provide them with the routes in order to do that, and reverse this terrible path we're on to criminalise people for making journeys to save their own lives.
Natalie Elphicke, MP, Conservative, thank you very much for joining us from Dover. Thank you very much for going out and talking to us. Zoe Gardner from the Joint Council for the Welfare of Immigrants, thank you very much for joining us from Central London.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Thursday morning time now is 7:25. So we all know the difference a good night's sleep can make to our physical and mental well-being, and yet many children in the UK still don't have a proper bed because their families are struggling financially.
That is why a teacher from Leeds has set up a charity. It's given out 1,400 beds over the last 4 years. Her name is Bex Wilson, and she invited us out on one of her delivery runs.
Every postcode in Leeds has been affected by bed poverty, and we know that because we've delivered beds there. All of us are only a couple of bad days or bad moments away from needing similar support to what we offer. We're heading to our first delivery of the evening, hopefully meeting the children, a lovely surprise for them with some brand new beds and bedding and pyjamas this evening. Hello, lovely, how are you? Your school have sent us because they've said that you're fabulous, is that true? So the whole plan is that you're going to be moving into your separate bedrooms. Though to do that, you've got a brand new bed, gorgeous mattress, duvet, another duvet there, 2 pillows, got some bedding in there and some pyjamas, all brand new and all for you, okay?
They did a food parcel a couple of weeks ago because we were low on money at that week, and they've just given us bed and bedding for the children and some pyjamas, which I can hear them all going through now. But at the moment, his washer's broke at the same time as trying to save up for a bed, so that money can now go straight to a washing machine, which I can buy out right now instead of just saving up for it, so that means I've got more money for Christmas then.
Referrals from schools are only ever increasing. It's only going to get worse, and it's just not right, is it, in 2021 that in Britain we have children that don't have a bed. We know that the key out of poverty, the cycle of poverty, is education, and children are not going to get an education that can break that cycle unless they've got a tummy full of food and a good night's sleep, and not having a bed just means that they're not going to have that chance, that starting point at all. You've got 4 star of the days already? How have you managed that? They've told us that you're fabulous, but they said that you'll be even better if you have a really good night's sleep. That'll help you be even better in your learning. And a brand new bed needs brand new pyjamas, so there you go, boys. Some bedding, run that in, come back. So the boys that we just delivered to were adamant that they wanted to come and help out bringing in the beds, and the manners were gorgeous. Huge big smiles, huge big thank yous. Yeah, and just you can tell on their faces. Children don't hide it, do they? Sometimes people think you can't just keep giving things out. We need to solve the problem. You know, we need to sort the causes of the problem. But whilst there are children sleeping on floors, sleeping on beanbags, sleeping on sofas, on chairs, 4 or 5 sharing one single bed, we will continue to give out beds because that's what they need. It may look like it's a bed, or it's putting a sticking plaster on a really big problem, but that child still needs a bed. Whatever the cause is, whatever has happened beforehand, that child in that moment if we don't go and intervene, that child will still be sleeping on the floor, and that's the difference that we try and make.
Good on you, Bex, and thank you very much for letting us film with you as well, just to see what a difference. It's so underrated sleep, but and it's also just having that peaceful place. You always remember when you were young, you'd sit in your bed and kind of do your homework or read or whatever. It's a safe place.
Let's see, it's time now to get the news, travel, and the weather. Where you are.
Good morning, I'm Sonia Jessup. An officer from Scotland Yard's Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Commands, accused of raping a woman he met on Tinder, has been accused of sexually assaulting 3 more women. PC David Carrick from Stevenage appeared in court last month on the initial charge, which he denied. Police say a further 3 women have now come forward. As Londoners face the first of a series of 24-hour tube strikes tomorrow, the Mayor has called for further talks with the RMT union. The dispute affects the Central, Jubilee, Northern, Piccadilly and Victoria lines, as well as the relaunch of the night tube on Saturday. It's over changes to working hours, which the RMT says are unfair.
Well, our message to the RMT is talk to us, come back around the table to talk to TFO. All of the unions have accepted that the night tube needs to return. They've accepted the rosters. They understand the importance to the nighttime economy of the night tube, but also women's safety.
Several self-defence clubs have told the BBC they've seen a rise in the number of women taking up classes amidst continuing concerns about women's safety. One group in South East London says inquiries are up by 75%.
I think I started to feel a bit more unsafe just walking around by myself, especially coming to winter in the evening, it's getting dark, and just feeling that I didn't know what I would do if someone were to try to attack me. I didn't feel like I had the tools. I bought a rape alarm and I'm walking around with that, but I don't really have any other idea what I would do in that situation.
Wembley Park will be lit up tonight with the return of the Christmas Lights Trail Winterfest. Its centrepiece, a 25-foot tree. The big switch on happens at 7 o'clock tonight. Travel now. This is how the tube looks. No reported problems at the moment, as you can see. In fact, the overground part suspended there. Time for the weather with Elizabeth Rizzini.
Hello, good morning. Well, it's been a very cold week of weather so far across the capital, and things are only set to turn chillier still as we head through the rest of it. But there will be some sunshine around at times, notably so today. But it's another cold, frosty start to the morning for many of us, especially towards northern home counties, where we saw that cloud clear first. Further south, then, it is a cloudier picture. That cloud will clear southwards, and it's a slightly milder start to the day here, but lots of sunshine emerging just about everywhere, but more cloud through the afternoon, and a noticeable northerly wind. So there's some wind chill to factor into today's temperatures. It's going to feel mighty cold out there. Highs of only 6 or 7 degrees Celsius. Now, as we head through this evening and overnight, then watch out for quite a sharp frost developing for the first half of the night. Temperatures dropping below freezing in a few spots, but then there'll be more cloud into Friday morning itself. And on Friday, we've got an area of low pressure that's going to give us some strong gusty winds. Also some outbreaks of rain that will fall as rain. Temperatures just ever so slightly higher, but not a great day of weather. And there'll be plenty of added wind chill too, but it's windier still as we go into Saturday. Watch out for some showers. It will be feeling cold, and some of those showers could turn out to be a bit wintry maybe on the higher ground.
More from me in an hour. You can check out our website too. But now it's back to Charlie and Naga. Bye for now.
Hello, this is Breakfast with Naga Manchetti and Charlie State.
Good morning to you. The time now 7:33. The Prime Minister Boris Johnson has said he wants to break the business model of the gangsters who arrange illegal channel crossings like the one which claimed 27 lives yesterday.
Well, let's speak now to the Immigration Minister, Kevin Foster, who's in our Westminster studio. Mr. Foster, thank you very much for your time this morning. I'm sure you're speaking to your counterparts in France this morning. Do you have any updates for us in connection with the incident itself?
Well, good morning, Charlie. The Home Secretary will be speaking to her French counterpart later this morning. Obviously, you know, our heart goes out in terms of those who lost their lives yesterday and their loved ones. As you know, at least 27 people have died, but it is a dynamic situation. The French authorities are investigating, and obviously we're keen to let them get on with their work, and we've obviously offered any support we can give.
Many people have observed this to be very shocking but entirely predictable. Do you accept that?
It's the channel are dangerous waters, and people setting off in flimsy boats without proper life-saving gear, you know, organised and facilitated by ruthless criminals. Sadly, you know, the dangers are very obvious, and yesterday's tragedy emphasises that. And the real sad part of this is those who organised that boat yesterday would have just viewed these people, who, you know, 27 at least people who passed away, just as a profit-making opportunity. That's why we are so determined to smash this model of a business, this really evil business model.
What are you going to do to change the way things are at the moment in practical terms?
Well, we've obviously been working with the French already, and they've stopped 20,000 crossings already this year. But you know, we want to go further. We want to do more with them. You know, we were certainly happy to offer resources and support. You know, we see this as a shared problem, not just a British problem. We are looking to change the law to deal with some of the aspects of our asylum system, and also to increase the penalties for those involved in this trade. And alongside from that, we also want to make sure that people are aware that, you know, we do have safe and legal routes from the regions of conflict, and we're even working to see how we can open up some more economic migration routes to those who are stuck in refugee camps in regions of conflict. So, you know, there's a lot we want to do on this end. Particularly, we want to get our Nationality and Borders Bill through Parliament, and also look to secure a returns agreement either with France bilaterally or with the EU as a whole.
What it sounds like, Kevin Foster, you're the Immigration Minister, is that what you're intending to do is do more of what you're doing at the moment. And what most observers say, maybe you included, you can tell me, is that the current system doesn't work, which is why 27 people died in the Channel yesterday. So what are you going to do that's different?
Well, we need to break the business model that the people traffickers use, and that means, for example, changing the law around how, you know, to determine how you arrive, whether it's illegally via this particular dangerous route, in terms of what the rights and entitlements you get in future here in the UK to reduce the incentive.
Those, with respect, Mr. Foster, those people who are climbing on board those boats, Mr. Foster, if I may, those people who are climbing on board those boats, as they did yesterday morning, they knew all the things you're talking about. They knew that the problems they would face when they got to the UK to seek asylum. But as we can see the pictures, I don't know if you're seeing what we're looking at now, they are prepared to do that regardless. So I'm trying to work out what it is that you're saying is going to change those people taking that risk today, tomorrow, next week.
Well, the first thing is working with France. One, we have offered resources. We are happy to support their operations.
How much money?
On the beach? Well, we've already agreed 54 million.
Have you paid that
to look
money?
at doing more. Yes, we have paid money to the French, but we're also prepared to offer resources beyond. Like yesterday, you know, we deployed a helicopter at their request to help with the search and rescue operation. So, you know, we're prepared to go beyond just offering cash, Charlie, to offering support as well. Because look, it's in no one's interest for this to continue. It's not in the UK's interest, it's not in France's interest, and it's certainly not in the interest of those who are making these deadly journeys in the hands of people traffickers.
If I look at the comments of Gérald Darmanin, apologies if I've got that name wrong, it's the French Interior Minister, who said he spoke to the Home Secretary Priti Patel 3 days ago, asking for more police officers, more cameras, more resources in general. He said that the contribution from Britain remains minimal compared to the resources that we put in place. Do you accept what he said?
Well, the Home Secretary will be speaking to her counterpart later this morning, and again, you know, we're prepared to offer support on the ground, we're prepared to offer resources, we're prepared to offer literally people to go there and help and assist the French authorities. We're clear we don't just see this as an issue that France needs to deal with, but one that we want to work together with France and our wider European partners, because we only need to look at the situation in the Mediterranean or Eastern Europe to see this isn't just an issue in the Channel. To break the business model of these gangs, and that includes things like securing returns agreements as well as the policing and law enforcement presence that there is in the Pas de Calais.
Is one of the areas that you are actively looking at now helping, financially or otherwise, the French set up some kind of system in France whereby those people who are seeking to come to the UK could be processed in France. Is that something you're actively pursuing?
No, we don't believe in encouraging people to make journeys across the Mediterranean, which are equally dangerous and where thousands of people have lost their lives, are appropriate. What we're looking at is having safe and legal routes from the regions of conflict themselves. You know, we evacuated 16,000 people from Afghanistan in August alone. Only last week, you can see that we welcomed an Afghanistan women's football team, and they flew here on a visa from the, they didn't need to engage in a dangerous journey. We're also looking to create more of our routes in terms of how we can support those people to come in directly. So, again, and looking at Europe as well, similarly, the European Union's looking to tackle the issues on its own border and, of course, the loss of life in the Mediterranean. And that type of centre would, yes, it might stop people crossing the Channel, but it would encourage even more to put their lives at risk in the Mediterranean.
I thought what we were trying to do in the immediate term is stop people crossing the Channel. And I look at their reports already this morning, and you will know that the weather has worsened today. There are already reports of crossings continuing this morning. 2 boats have been brought to Dover carrying around 40 people. What you're talking about sounds very academic relative to the reality that people are getting in those boats this morning with worse weather, and you're changing nothing.
Well, Charlie, there's nothing academic about the number of people we evacuated from Afghanistan or our safe and legal routes.
I'm talking about the crossings on the Channel.
And there's nothing academic about the offers we've made of extra support. We are prepared to put resources, including border officers. For many years we've worked well with France in terms of juxtaposed controls, where our border force and the French border police work well together to secure the routes between our countries.
But this
by
isn't
rail
working.
and by ferry. Well, I think most people who've used our ferry and rail links would say that the juxtaposed controls work fairly well. What we now need to do is extend that approach to how we deal with those making irregular journeys across the Channel, putting lives at risk, and how we work together to break the business model. France has already this year stopped 20,000 crossings. We've seen 400 arrests. We've broken 17 organised criminal gangs. But yes, we can go further, and we believe we can, and believe we can work with our French colleagues, including looking at options for returns agreements.
How much more money are you prepared to put in? And I do want to clarify something. I know you mentioned the figure, I think it's 54 million. Have the French received that money in order that they can put more people on the ground across that 100 kilometres of coastline? Have they received that money?
Our funding has enabled them to double the number of
have they
police
received
on,
that money?
on the beaches, and they've received money from the UK.
The 54 million?
Well, they've received the money as we've agreed to pay them. And again, we're not
I just want to be very clear, Mr. Foster. I want to be very clear about this.
Officers, we're prepared to offer our cutters, we're prepared to offer our air assets and resources as well. So this isn't just about will I put a financial figure, but we are prepared to offer resources. As yesterday, when we deployed a UK helicopter into French waters to help over French waters to help with the search and rescue operations. This isn't just about cash. This is about actively offering our resources, our personnel, and our expertise and experience. And we're very happy to work with the French to do that. And that's above and beyond the agreements that we already have with them.
I'd like you to just tell me one very straightforward thing, which is, and I accept the point you're making, it's not just about the cash, but when that announcement was made by Priti Patel about this money that would help, and she made very bold claims about bringing this crossing across the Channel and these boats down to zero, that was the hope and the expectation. She said that we would be giving £54 million to the French. Can I be very clear? Have they received the entirety of that £54 million as we stand today?
Charlie, we'd agreed to pay it in instalments, and we've made the payments as we've agreed to pay. And certainly we'll be again discussing later today with the French. But again, we've seen, as we touched on, let's remember the French have stopped 20,000 crossings this year. We've broken 17 organised criminal gangs working with the French. So to be honest, there is a lot of work being done already, but we need to step that up further. And we're prepared. We're keen to work with France. We're prepared to offer resources on top of money, and of course to look at whether we can get a returns agreement as well, which would ultimately smash the business model of the people trafficking gangs.
There is a lot of focus, quite rightly, on those people trafficking gangs and those individuals who are controlling that. In terms of what they face if they're caught and if they're convicted, what charges do you think they should face, and what kind of jail terms should they face? Because, as you said yourself, a lot of this is about sending out the messages about the risks people are taking, and that includes those criminals who are trying to do this.
Absolutely, we're clear we want to increase the penalties, and we want to ensure that, that the maximum sentence can be up to life imprisonment for those who view humans as nothing more, people, you know, literally view people as nothing more than a profitable cargo that they're happy to put at immense risk. You know, that is in our nationality and borders bill. We want to get that bill through Parliament. It would certainly be far easier to get that bill through if we had the support of the main opposition parties as well for it. But we're determined that we want to crack down, and we do want to send out a very clear message of what we think of those who engage in this despicable behaviour and put people's lives at risk with the tragic consequences we saw yesterday.
Kevin Foster, Immigration Minister, thank you for your time this morning.
The time now is 7:45. Good morning to you. Mike's going to bring us all up to date with the sport and success for English teams in the Champions League.
All week, yeah, clean sweep. So Liverpool and Man City win their group. So much hype, wasn't there, in Manchester yesterday? The build-up, like movie stars were coming to town, Paris Saint-Germain, and their awesome front three, Messi, Neymar and Mbappe. But in the end, they were a bit flat, weren't they, compared to City? Their collective sum of parts, this team spirit, their fight, their edge. Indeed, Manchester City were missing some of their own big names, but they outplayed Paris Saint-Germain, winning 2-1, and it means they win their Champions League group. Although PSG had taken the lead, City fought back with goals from Raheem Sterling and then Gabriel Jesus. The French club are also through to the next round, but City will have the advantage. They are now seeded for the first knockout round.
In general, we make a really top performance, happy to be in the next stage. Of course, congratulations to the team, everyone in the club. For many years in a row, being there in the last 16, now focusing the Premier League, and in February we try to arrive in the best conditions possible to go to quarterfinals.
Now, Liverpool were already assured of going through as group winners, but no chance. Now, as you've been hearing this morning, a review of the way football is run in England has concluded that an independent regulator is needed to put the sport on a sounder financial footing and give fans more of a say in the way the teams they support are run. Well, the government set up the review after 6 big Premier League clubs tried to form a breakaway European Super League, while at the same time many clubs in lower divisions were in severe financial hardship.
People are saying no more. You know, this is about ensuring that vested interests are removed from football, that football can actually start to become something that's sustainable for the long-term future of the English game. And that's why we're setting out today, you know, these structures, these recommendations that will actually completely change the landscape for football regulation.
Now, Ronnie O'Sullivan says he actually prefers watching snooker to playing it, but nevertheless, he got through to the second round of the UK Snooker Championship, so it means the 7-time former champion will have to play again after surviving a challenging match with Michael White before eventually winning by 6 frames to 3 in York. And O'Sullivan, well, he refused to be drawn on the other issue, dominating snooker this week. Some of snooker's big names have backed Sean Murphy over his claim that amateurs should not be allowed to play in professional tournaments. So Murphy was knocked out of the UK Championship by the 19-year-old Chinese amateur Si Jia Wei on Tuesday, and said afterwards that young man shouldn't be in the tournament. The World Snooker Tour said it strongly disagrees with his comments, but defending champion Neil Robertson, world number 1 Mark Selby and 3-time world champion Mark Williams have all said they agree with Murphy, and he's certainly not standing down.
I've seen today how this story has blown up and is still, you know, trending and all the rest of it. It's madness, really, from my point of view. But for me, there has to be a line. You know, if there is no distinction between the pro tours and amateur tours, let's just have one big tour then. And I think amateurs, very good amateurs by the way, standing in front of and potentially being banana skins for professional players who earn their living this way is a problem.
Well, World Snooker Tour strongly, as I said, disagrees, saying that, look, Si Jia Wei, he deserved this place because even though he's an amateur, his results absolutely justify his position at getting in to play the pros on this occasion. But of course, the other argument we've heard is that it's their livelihoods, it's the living for the pros, and they spend years trying to qualify, going through the qualifying process to become a pro, and it's their livelihoods at risk.
It's interesting seeing it in other sports though, because you have amateurs playing,
of course,
you know, in golf, for example, and you know other sports and individual tournaments as well. So
it's going to rumble on.
Thanks, Mike.
Let's take a look at this morning's weather. Carol's got the details for you right now.
Morning.
Good morning, both. Good morning to you too. We have a blast of winter coming our way over the next few days. It's going to be cold, much colder than it has been, Saturday in particular. There's the risk of gales or severe gales and spells of rain, sleet and snow. Now, we're not all going to see some snow, but I'll tell you a bit more about that as we go through the forecast. It's a cold start to the day though, some of us starting off with some frost, a lot of clear skies, a lot of sunshine around, and windy along the coasts in particular. That's where the strongest winds are, and they're blowing in showers. Now, most of the showers are going to be of rain, but we could see again some wintry showers continuing across the northern half of Scotland. Some wintriness over the hills of Northern Ireland and the North York Moors. As we come along the coasts of Wales, southwest England, and also eastern England into East Anglia, there are going to be rain showers. But again, as we come south, similar picture, a lot of dry, clear, crisp and sunny conditions, but feeling cold. To give you an idea of the temperatures, this is what you can expect as the maximums through the afternoon, 4 to 9, maybe 10 in the Channel Islands. Now, by the end of the afternoon, you can see already the cloud gathering and some rain arriving across the far northwest, again with some wintriness. That's going to be pushing southwards through the course of the night. Behind it, we'll have scattered showers, but increasingly wintry and down to lower levels in Scotland. Under the clear skies in the south, it will be cold enough for a touch of frost, and the wind is going to strengthen across Scotland, Northern Ireland and the Irish Sea. Now, as we go through tomorrow, the brightness in the far southeast will be quickly eradicated by the weather front sinking south, taking its rain. And if we follow that weather front all the way around back into the northwest of Scotland, here is where we'll see some further snow, even down to sea levels. But some of our showers could be wintry, more especially on the hills. The Met Office on Friday has a weather warning out for wind across Scotland, Northern Ireland and parts of northern England. Again, we could have gales, even severe gales, the severe gales more likely around the coasts. So this low pressure is what's driving our weather as we go through Friday and into the weekend. The exact positioning of it will determine what you get, so where the strongest winds will be and where we'll see the sleet and also the snow. So in current thinking, on Friday evening, the strongest winds will be out towards the west, and you can tell that from the spacing of the isobars. Now, if we pick that up and we go through Friday night, you can see how the rain, sleet and snow pushes farther south. Some of that will be getting down to low levels, especially in the Highlands, and with the strong winds, there could well be some blizzards around as well. That moves down towards the southeast as we head through the course of Saturday. Very windy. The Met Office has a yellow wind warning out for more or less the whole of the UK, except at this stage the southeast. Again, gales, severe gales with exposure, but Naga and Charlie, although it's going to be bitterly cold on Saturday, things calm down a bit weather-wise during the course of Sunday.
Carol, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
It's 8 minutes to 8. Most families have at least a couple of younger members who love to put on a show, especially around Christmas. Seems that the royal family is no different.
Yes, a new exhibition at Windsor Castle reveals how the Queen, who was then Princess Elizabeth, and her sister, Princess Margaret, used to love producing their own pantomimes when they were teenagers.
And the costumes were very impressive, as our royal correspondent Daniela Ralph has been finding out.
Windsor Castle is Christmas ready. Its trees are decorated, its grand staterooms dressed. And this year the castle is taking visitors back 80 years, to the days when a pair of teenage girls who lived here tried to lift spirits during the Christmases of the Second World War. Princess Elizabeth, as she was then, and her sister Princess Margaret created an annual royal pantomime. For the first time, some of their costumes have come out of the archive and are on display. The two princesses were always the star performers. The shows were staged in this room, the Waterloo Chamber. The audience was castle staff, the local school, troops and the King and Queen. Money from tickets sold was used to make blankets for soldiers on the front line.
I know you were in the grand surroundings of Windsor Castle, but here there is something quite ordinary about putting on a show for your family and your friends.
Yes, ordinary up to a point. I mean, they were supported by, sound technicians that came specially from the BBC, special set designers, but that was very much blended with that kind of homemade element too. So whilst the performances were, looked very grand and very beautiful, there was very much a kind of homegrown spirit to it all.
The pantos also showed the strong sibling bond. On stage, in costume, Elizabeth and Margaret were a formidable partnership. And privately, these royal sisters were a vital support for one another. They were often away from their parents, having moved out of London during the war. And the evacuee experience is part of this Christmas display. The paintings of fairy tale characters that provided a backdrop to the pantos were designed by an art student evacuated to Windsor. His story